you're improving that. And then three, as you get more successful, cash that in to gain more autonomy over your work so that you can have whatever level or definition of slowness appeals to you. So you can step away from busyness and keep your work crafted around the things that really resonate. That's hard as well. That's hard as well because, well, as you get better, people aren't going to be offering you to do less. So you're going to have to actually make that call yourself. So let's get some concrete examples. examples here. Let's go back to, I mentioned marketing director. What might this dual strategy look like? Obsessing over quality look like if you're a marketing director? Well, maybe what you realize is, okay, when you get measurement based, you can really get fine tuned about figuring out what marketing efforts work and what don't, how to lean in heavily on the things that work and away from the things that don't. And so maybe you decide I'm going to become ruthlessly measurement based in designing of my marketing strategies, even if this is kind of scary, because I'm not just doing here's a standard mix of things. You can't really get mad at me. I'm doing sort of the right things. Like, no, I'm ruthlessly measurement based. I'm learning these measurement tools. I'm trusting the data. I'm pushing the things that are working well beyond what is normal. And maybe as a result, by doing this, your campaigns are unusual and innovative and very successful. So you figured out what's important. My campaign's working, and a training regime for getting there. I'm going to do this sort of leaning into evidence base in this example. Now you have to use that success to gain autonomy. So now imagine you say, okay, I'm really desirable in this sector. I'm leaving my company to go freelance. You can hire me to be a marketing, to run the marketing for your particular whatever it is, product or launch or whatever. And I'm going to charge a good amount of money because I'm really good at this. I can back it up, and I'm going to do this 8 months a year. 4 months a year, I don't take contracts. That's just the deal. So don't. If your contract overlaps those 4 months, I just can't do it. Imagine that now. Now you've created this really nice sort of slow rhythm where you're doing great work. You have 4 months a year you're not working at all. I mean, you could just imagine in this daydream here how you've escaped just being like a lower level marketing director that they don't really trust or bothering you with emails and you're working all the time and you're always worried about your job. All right, what about if you're a programmer? Let's give another concrete example here. Maybe you really look around and say, oh, this particular specialty is incredibly valuable right now, right? Maybe it's like API development for platforms, or maybe it's something in the AI space, like you're very comfortable working with the ML libraries for Google. I'm very comfortable working with doing efficient training code for, neural nets or something like that. You figure out like this is the thing that's really valuable. We don't have a good person for this. These people are really desirable. And you just work an hour a day. Like you train yourself. You read and do sample projects. You're just doing this, forcing yourself to get better and better and better at this. And as you get better and better, you eventually be considered a 10x programmer. Your salary jumps up. Maybe you begin to dictate more the terms of how your work happens. I do one project at a time. I take sabbaticals every 3 years. They're just happy to have you because they don't want the other team to have you. Completely different, less busy life. dictate the terms. There's just some concrete examples of what I'm trying to show you here is that this dual strategy of figuring out what matters, systematically pursuing it, leveraging success to gain autonomy and to move away from busyness and towards something more meaningful really can apply to many different jobs. All right, so what are the pitfalls here that you want to avoid? I have three real quick I want to mention. This first one actually came up in my conversation with Ryan Holiday when I did his podcast recently to talk about slow productivity, because it was actually an idea of his that we sort of riffed on. This was this idea of you want to make sure that you're not playing the wrong game. It's one of the biggest pitfalls. It's like, look, I want to do really well, but you're doing well at the wrong game. And the example he gave, which I think is a good one, is focusing on pleasing over impressing. And he said, okay, here's what I want to do is I'm going to be super responsive. Like, I make everyone else's life easier. You need something, I'll do it, even if I have to stay up late. I'll answer your emails right away. Like, my job is to reduce stress in everybody else's life. And people will love you for that. They won't respect you for that. You're not going to gain yourself autonomy or leverage doing that. You're going to gain yourself a lot more work. Now consider the other game to play, which is I want to impress all these people. It's not impressive to be super responsive and to like do what it takes to get these small things done. It's not impressive, it's useful to them. Impressive is I can program these transformer, matrix manipulations for this AI thing better than anyone else you know. And it gives us a 10x speed up into training when I do it, when I'm on the team. And I'm like fine with email. I'm not like a jerk about it, but I'm I'm not like great at the small things you give me, but I can do this really well, and that's really impressive. That is much more valuable. Playing the game of being impressive instead of playing the game of pleasing people. Pitfall number 2 has to do with the training aspect, right? So these pitfalls, by the way, correspond to the three-part lesson. So if the first part was figure out what you do best, playing the wrong game is a pitfall about getting that wrong. The second part of our 3-step system was create a training regime. So the pitfall here is what I call going on fun runs instead of interval training.
Turn right.
Right? So like when people want to become a better runner, they're amateur runners, they want to just like go for 5K runs and blast music and kind of like go fast at the end and work up a sweat, but never really do anything that hard, right? Whereas like serious runners, like, no, I'm either doing 10-mile runs to build up my aerobic base, or I'm doing vomit-inducing intervals to get my speed up. It's not fun, right? The professional runners are doing the stuff you really need to do to get better. The amateur runners are doing the stuff that they want to do. So they kind of tell the story that that's what's important. Same thing happens with knowledge work professional skills all the time. We write a story about what we want to do because we like the idea of, I can spend 30 minutes doing this Udemy course on programming every day. I can find time for it. It's not too hard, but it makes me feel productive. We write stories about what we want to be important instead of figuring out the things that actually matter. And almost always the things that actually matter aren't fun. You have to learn to actually get the pleasure out of doing the hard thing other people won't do. Athletes know this. You have to alchemize intense discomfort of certain training. I can't understand this math, but I'm going to crack it. Alchemize that into fulfillment. Yeah, other people are going to give up. I'm not. I'm not going to give up here. All right, the third pitfall here. So when it comes to using success to gain more autonomy, the pitfall here is what I call the control trap. This was in my book, So Good They Can't Ignore You. The control trap. The control trap basically says, as you get good enough to gain control over your career and to potentially use this to gain more autonomy, to gain more slowness, that is exactly the time where you're going to be presented with all of these really flattering opportunities to get paid more and get more, respect, I guess, like more clout in your field in exchange for having a busier, more frenetic job. Like as soon as you get good enough to be able to demand slowness, people will start offering you fastness on the most appealing platters you've seen. Hey, good news. You could be a managing partner at our law firm. Like, oh man, that's hard. And that, that pays a lot of money. Yeah, that's definitely what I want to do. By the way, it's twice the work, So as you get really good at something, people don't come to you and say, hey, you're really good. Do you want to like chill? Like we'll pay you the same amount of money and you can work half the time if you want. They don't say that. They say, how about we double the money and double the amount of work you do? That's the control trap. So you're going to have to fight against the grain. No one is going to hold your hand applying your hard-won leverage in the market to try to make your life slower. No one wants you to be slower. You have to be the one to demand it and have faith in yourself. All right, so this is the pitfalls. All right, so anyways, there we go. That's the story of Joule. I think it's a really cool story. I tell it in detail in Slow Productivity, but those are the lessons to pull from it. Obsessing over quality makes slowness seem absolutely necessary. Obsessing over quality eventually gives you more options than you thought you ever had to actually put slowness into pursuit. So quality and slowness are intertwined. If you want to escape overload and crushing busyness, paradoxically, focusing on what matters, in some sense, working harder on what matters is going to make your life easier. All right, so we have some great questions to get to. First, however, I want to talk about one of the sponsors that makes this show possible, and that is our good friends